Today's video is sponsored by EnergySage. Visit the link in the description to find out how EnergySage can help you contract local verified solar experts to help you generate clean, green, renewable electricity for your home, either through solar panels on the roof of your home or by joining a community solar project in your area. EnergySage can also help you pick a home-based energy backup system that suits your needs and your budget. We are living in very interesting times, and regardless of how you feel about the current global state of affairs, the chances are that you are feeling the pinch of socio-economic forces doing their darndest to make life a little more difficult. And be it the threat of increased occurrences of devastating weather events or electrical grid instability, a worldwide challenge worsened in the US thanks to dramatically reduced funding and massive staff layoffs, it's quite possible you've spent some serious time thinking about how to keep things powered at home when the electrical grid fails, regardless of the reason behind that failure. Not so long ago, being able to keep your essential electrical appliances working at home in the event of a power cut or natural disaster meant you needed to have a large, smelly, and sometimes unreliable fossil fuel generator ready to go at a moment's notice. Perhaps it was set up to automatically kick in the event that the grid failed. Perhaps it was one of those that you had to fetch from storage and place on your patio every time the power went out, snaking power lines to the important things in your home and risking carbon monoxide poisoning at the same time. Or perhaps you're someone with an old-fashioned tractor-based generator that relied on the PTO output of a handy-dandy agricultural vehicle to keep your power running. Or perhaps you were really ahead of your time and had a large, heavy, lead-acid-based backup system fed by solar panels that could operate completely off-grid when things went south. If that last one sounds like you, then all I can say is respect. You are a pioneer, and you rock! These days, thanks to improvements in battery cell chemistry, power electronics, and of course, more and more EV choice in the market, backing your home up in the event of a power cut is easier than ever before. But which solution should you use, and how do you go about picking the best for your needs? Today, I'm going to help you figure that out. If you're a regular to this channel, you'll know that I am personally a fan of vehicle-to-grid and vehicle-to-home battery backup systems. I have one, and while it's been an absolute pain in the butt to get working reliably, it does mean that in the event of a storm or a power outage, I can keep things in my home running courtesy of the 130-ish kilowatt hours of stored energy inside the battery pack of my Ford F-150 Lightning pickup truck. But my system wasn't cheap. I paid about $10,000 to have the system installed when we purchased our first F-150 Lightning. And no, just because someone will say so in the comments, that is the standard price, and I didn't get any special purchase deal from Ford or Sunrun because of my job on this channel. In my personal situation, our decision to buy the Ford-based system was influenced by cost concerns and practicality. Everything here is off-grid other than the electricity supply, and therefore we needed something that could happily run 2 different well pumps and a septic system while also providing emergency heat and power to the house. And doing so with the truck was far cheaper than buying static battery storage products that would have totaled, at the time, to more money than we actually paid for the truck. The system now works well for me most of the time. I mean, it does when it's behaving, but that is another problem entirely. But it's also major overkill for the majority of people looking for battery or power backup. So today I'm going to look into the alternatives and examine which you should opt for and why. So let's start by looking at the different options, their relative price points, and ask what you'll need to bear in mind if you opt to use them. And because it makes sense to start with simpler options, let's look at portable and not so portable UPS units that you can get off the shelf from many different retailers around the world. Then we'll go up to more powerful units, pass through using your EV as a battery backup, and then go to full house battery backup systems. To consumer-grade UPSs. UPS stands for Uninterruptible Power Supply and has been a mainstay for anyone who spends a lot of time at a desktop computer in a place where the grid power is anything other than super reliable. UPS units are available in a dizzying array of different configurations, but most of the budget ones contain small lead-acid-based batteries, either absorbed glass mat, AGM, or SLA, sealed lead acid. The primary purpose of these units is usually to keep providing power to a device in the event of a sudden electrical grid glitch or power cut, and depending on the unit you have and the power drain you're putting it through, they can provide anything from about 10 minutes of emergency backup power to a few hours. Back in the days when we were all using desktop computers, the telltale click of a UPS activating its internal battery pack was a signal to save your work and power your computer down. But these days, with more efficient and sophisticated hardware, your computer may even automatically power itself down in the event of a power cut. That's assuming you've plugged it into the UPS's dedicated data port, that is. Many UPS units on the market also incorporate surge protection, meaning if there is a sudden jump in power to your home caused by high winds interacting with power lines or, say, a lightning strike, your expensive appliances are protected. Modern UPSs also feature built-in USB sockets to allow you to charge up mobile phones and tablets, but you're not going to be able to do much more than keep essential communication and entertainment running for a few days at most. If you have a larger one, you might be able to run higher power devices for a little longer, but for the most part, you're not going to be running your refrigerator or boiling a kettle with them. As a point of note, I should probably acknowledge that our server room has a pretty chunky boy server UPS that can keep our server room running for about 45 minutes without any major issues. And I think it probably could, theoretically, power a small electric kettle. It's also massively heavy, and it was pretty expensive, so yeah. UPS units are usually best if you have mission-critical computer systems you need to keep running so you can then gracefully shut them down in a power cut without data loss, or to keep important things like medical devices, CPAP machines and the like running. But that's really their lot, and you should only really use these as a primary backup solution if you have a pretty reliable power supply to your home or office. Alternatively, if you're like me and you live in a pretty rural area where power wobbles, where power flicks on and off very quickly over a few seconds, are pretty common, you can use these off-the-shelf consumer UPS devices to protect sensitive electronics and keep things running even if there's a power blip. In addition to the server room UPS, we have UPS backups protecting desktop computers in both myself and my wife's offices, as well as a UPS device protecting kitchen and a UPS protecting family room equipment, things like TVs and entertainment systems. In our case, we've picked units that will keep power operating for around 10 minutes or so, which usually gives us time to power up our Ford home integration system to ensure continued power supply. Even Kate Walton Elliott, whose office is in the middle of a mid-sized city, uses UPSs because she occasionally gets brownouts, and that can really ruin her day's work. While UPS-type battery systems are reasonably cheap to buy, though, you can get one for a few $100s equivalent, you should be aware that they usually require regular cycling, and the battery packs themselves usually only reliably work for somewhere between 3 and 5 years before you'll need to replace them. Being lead acid, though, they're pretty cheap to replace, but they also don't like extremes of heat, which can dramatically impact how useful they are for how long. Sort of sideways, or maybe half a step up from these, are some electric bicycles, which come with removable battery packs and separate power supplies that enable you to power small appliances. Kate reviewed the mock wheel variant of one of these a while back, and she's actually used it to power her fridge overnight after a storm took out power to a large part of her city. Much like the equivalent of hauling a generator out of the garage to power a few devices, these aren't really practical for folks who lose power on the regular, but they are handy for folks who only need them now and then, and maybe only need to power the odd single device. They're also a great mode of transport. One proper step up from all of that and the traditional UPSs are more advanced systems offered by companies like Anker, EcoFlow, Bluetti and Jackery. They're often built with more advanced battery tech, usually lithium-ion or lithium iron phosphate. They can store more energy in a smaller physical space and come in a wide range of different sizes and capacities. The most affordable units can cost anywhere from a few $100s equivalent to several thousand, with the most expensive units actually capable of providing enough power to keep a modest home running for a significant amount of time in a power cut. The larger you go, the more expensive the units are and the less portable they are, but thanks to their battery technology, which is much lighter than old-school lead acid, many of the larger units also come with their own tote cart system, which allows you to wheel them to where they're needed. Some can even be charged up at a public level 2 EV charging station, meaning that you can take them to be recharged if your power cut is longer than you'd like, but there happens to be a nearby public charging station that is still powered up and capable of charging things. Some of these units can also be configured to operate with solar panels, which makes them ideal as portable power stations if you're an outdoorsy type. Depending on the size, you can use solar power as trickle charging supplements or as a full-blown off-grid setup. Now, I personally have very limited experience with these, as I've never owned one myself. However, the majority of folk I know with them speak very highly of these systems, and if you are an urban resident who needs more moderate power capabilities in a power cut, this could be your best course of option if you don't have an EV with any power takeoff capabilities. Or maybe you just want to run things at home even if your vehicle isn't around. They're also highly flexible for those who rent rather than own their home, since you don't necessarily have to wire anything in to your electrical panel. I know that some of the newer battery solutions from companies like EcoFlow do go up to full home backup and include their own distribution panel setup, but I'm going to come to those a little later in the video. And of course, if you've already got a generator hookup socket for your home, many older buildings do in much of the world, this is a great option to transition away from a portable power generator powered by gasoline, diesel, or natural gas, instead shifting towards something that can be 100% renewably powered. Unless you have huge power requirements for extended off-grid operation, or you happen to have an EV with V2G already enabled, this is likely going to be one of your best choices for backup needs. I'll go over exactly how to size the system in a bit, but let's get on to the next item on my list: using your EV as an emergency power station by adding a 12-volt mains inverter. Almost any EV with a 12-volt starter battery can, at a push, be used as an emergency backup power solution. At least, it can be if you're willing to make some tweaks. It's possible to buy some pretty capable off-the-shelf 12-volt mains inverters that will take 12 volts and boost it up to mains power to run essential devices. And at a push, you can use such an inverter to run a small refrigerator or power essential electronics in your home, provided you're okay with having to run extension cables to wherever power is needed. The theory here is pretty simple. After attaching the inverter to your car's 12-volt accessory or starter battery, you'll need to keep power on for your EV so that the main traction battery pack can slowly trickle charge that 12-volt battery as the attached inverter drains using the EV's DC to DC converter. That means, in addition to needing somewhere to keep your EV where it can safely be unlocked, kept on and operational, you're going to have the total maximum power output of your backup limited by the maximum power output of your car's DC to DC converter. It must be capable of sustaining that power transfer, and the key word here is sustain, because basically, without getting too into the weeds, your 12-volt inverter power output should be no more than about 80% of your EV's maximum DC to DC power output. It's also worth noting that some automotive manufacturers are not keen on you doing this, and whether or not your warranty will cover you should you push that DC to DC further than it wants to go, and thus to the point of failure, is frankly an open question. There was an incident not so long ago here in Portland, Oregon, where a Tesla owner got into trouble with Tesla because they tried to run a very low power furnace pump off an inverter attached to their Tesla. I should note, though, that in order to make sure that you keep both your EV and your powered electronics happy, you should also pick a good quality mains inverter that's capable of producing a pure sine wave output. These are much more expensive, but unlike their modified sine wave counterparts, are less likely to damage sensitive equipment like computers and medical devices. Back in about 2016, I actually kept my rented home running for several days using the battery pack in our Nissan Leaf and a 1 kilowatt peak mains inverter. When the battery in our Leaf ran low, we were then able to unplug and drive to a nearby charging station to top the car back up, and we were able to continue that process for a few days until our power came back on. There are a few videos about it on the channel, and I'll link to them below. This particular solution is far cheaper than using a dedicated battery backup, but it can be messy, and if you happen to have one of the newer EVs coming to market, you may already have a built-in mains inverter your vehicle can use to power essential devices. There are a couple of different options these days, but some vehicles include built-in mains outlets somewhere inside the vehicle for emergency use, which usually provides somewhere between 1 and 3 kilowatts of power through a standard household outlet. The output obviously depends on where you live in the world. Others, like the EGMP-based cars from Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, include vehicle-to-load adapters as optional extras that allow you to power essential devices from the same inlet where you'd ordinarily charge your car. While internal outlets might give you the power you need, they do usually require you to crack a window or a door, while external adapters allow you to operate while the vehicle is off and locked. For what it's worth, I personally think this solution is the most elegant one for the majority of folks out there who have a reasonably stable power supply from their utility and need occasional low-power battery backup solutions. So if you're someone who doesn't have a backup solution for your home, but you are also in the market for a new EV, make sure vehicle-to-load is a must-have item on your car's feature list. More and more automakers are rolling out V2L capabilities, and I firmly think it's the next killer feature for EVs. It's also as portable as your car is, which is a great option for zero carbon camping. But for your home solution, not everyone is in a circumstance that allows some massive cable runs from your vehicle to whatever it is you're needing to power. And while I'm talking about cables, please, for the love of all that is holy and good, make sure that if you intend on using your EV for backup power, you invest in properly rated, heavy-duty cabling. Yes, it will cost you a lot more than the cables you probably buy to run extra power from that awkward-to-reach corner socket to your couch area so you can charge your mobile phone, but a properly rated outdoor spec cable with high-quality pins and construction is going to be far less likely to cause you problems than the Temu special cable you got online for $2.50. Your cable should be rated and carry UL or CE rating, or in fact, both. And if you even think for a nanosecond of using a suicide or widowmaker cable, do not. Just don't. Next up, let's talk about home-tied battery storage solutions, ones that permanently or semi-permanently are wired into your home's electrical panel. For the benefits of brevity, I'm actually going to include the larger battery pack options from companies like Anker, Bluetti, EcoFlow and others in this particular segment, because for the most part, they require at least some home-side physical wiring in order to be used as a whole house backup solution. And of course, this section also includes grid-tied battery storage products that are physically mounted to the outside or inside of your home and cannot be moved. I'm not going to cover DIY ones in this video, but they are also an option. These solutions are eminently configurable and usually require you to make some pretty substantial upfront decisions about what it is you want to be powered in your home during a power cut. Some options may also include a smart load panel that allow you to selectively turn circuits on and off in response to either demand or available supply, but they tend to be pretty expensive. But either way, for both this solution and our last one, which is using your vehicle to power your home, you'll need to sit down and go through your electrical consumption to figure out exactly what you can live without in a power cut and what you absolutely need to have powered. The reason we chose a whole power backup solution for our home, even though it's vehicle to grid, basically operates like a large battery pack, is that we needed to power our well and septic system in a power cut, and this was the easiest solution. In our case, both of those circuits were on the must-have side of our electrical circuits. But your personal choices will vary from ours. The most important thing, though, that people like to keep powered are things like kitchen circuits, refrigerators, and AC systems. These normally go on the essential load panel circuits. That is to say, circuits that you want to have backed up in an emergency. And sometimes people do like to add those larger kitchen appliances to the list too, but in all honesty, things like dryers and stoves are usually treated as nice to haves, while basic lighting and power is treated as essential. In my home, we have our microwave backed up and our toaster oven, but our stove and our dryer, we forget about those in a power cut. But the nice thing about using a battery backup solution that's tied into your home is that in some cases you can also tie in solar panels. Of course, Tesla's Powerwall is one that gets name checked a lot, but frankly, there are other great systems out there that aren't Tesla-based, so don't feel obliged to buy a Tesla Powerwall just because someone told you that you should when you were down the pub. For what it's worth, I've heard some amazing things about other solutions, including from Enphase and LG Energy, and if you are struggling to pick one, well, maybe it's time to chat to our video sponsor, EnergySage. EnergySage is an online service in the US that helps homeowners connect with local, verified solar and energy storage installers who really know their stuff and can help you navigate the process of installing your own photovoltaic solar system, with or without a battery backup solution. We used EnergySage when we were looking for installers willing to help us put solar panels on the roof of our home, and our EnergySage verified installers were professional, knowledgeable, and put us in touch with an amazing credit union that allowed us to finance our solar panels for as low a monthly payment as possible. So if you are in the US and you'd like to take advantage of the years of expertise that EnergySage verified installers have, why not follow the link below to sign up for EnergySage's free, no obligation service and start your journey today. If you do choose to use an EnergySage installer for your energy storage or solar project, we will also get a small referral fee, so you'll be supporting the channel too. And that brings me to the final choice in this all, using your EV not as just a vehicle to load solution, but as a whole home or partial home backup. As regulars to the channel will know, my experiences with the Ford home integration system haven't always been the best. But it's also worth noting that in the case of the Ford system, it was rolled out long before an official V2G standard had been ratified. But that has now changed, and we're now starting to see new compliant V2G products coming to the market that promise more flexibility and reliability while being standard compliant. Just a few weeks ago, Wallbox in the US opened its order books for its Quasar 2, a system that will work out of the box with the Kia EV9 to allow homeowners automatic power backup in the event of a power cut. General Motors now offers V2G options for its Lithium-based full-size EVs like the Chevrolet Equinox EV, GMC Denali EV, and Hummer EV, to name just a few. Tesla also offers a V2G system for folks who own its highly unpopular pickup truck, and Rivian is promising its own V2G system in the near future for its vehicles. While all of these vehicles also have onboard power takeoff, usually capable of providing about 9 to 10 kilowatts of power through a bevy of onboard power outlets, it's important to know that it isn't just full-size SUVs and pickup trucks promising this tech going forwards. Volkswagen's MEB-based vehicles, at least some of them, are gearing up to offer vehicle-to-grid capabilities in the near future. And at the higher end of the market, Lucid is also promising V2G capabilities, at least on paper. But should you go for a home-tied battery or a vehicle-based backup? Well, it depends. For me, personally, I could make the finances work for a vehicle with V2G capabilities, but not a vehicle with a home battery backup solution on the side. In fact, given that most grid-tied battery backups for homes are a fraction of what's found in most modern full-size EVs in terms of storage capabilities, I'd argue that most people would benefit from vehicle-to-grid over static battery if, and this is a big if, they are likely to be at home when the power goes out. For what it's worth, where I live, the chances are that we'll have a power cut when there's a major storm, either a winter storm or a high wind event, in which case I'm most likely to be at my home and not wanting to go out driving anywhere. The other likely time that we'll have a power cut is when there's an elective grid power down, where the local utility preemptively cuts power to the grid to lower the risk of fire during extremely hot and dry and windy weather. And again, I'm most likely to not want to drive anywhere during that time, and if I do need to evacuate due to fires, the chances are that keeping power on at home is going to be the least of my worries. That said, everyone is different and everyone has different use case scenarios, so to finish, here are some tips for picking the best solution. First, are you a renter or an owner? The last two options are generally not possible if you rent, but you should also think long and hard about investing in any permanently connected solutions or hardwiring if you are someone who thinks you might be about to sell your house and move. While tax credits appear to still be available for larger installs in the US for now, you should also bear in mind that you may soon not be able to get those tax credits back, which will increase the overall cost and the length of time that it will get you a return on investment. Next, either plan a simulated power cut to figure out which things you can survive without, or go through your house and carefully document what is plugged in, when it's used, and what its estimated power draw is. Having a smart home with power monitoring can make this a whole lot easier, but some legwork with a pen and paper also works great. Finally, you should consider budget. What's the real-world impact of living without something for a few days versus having it powered off, an expensive backup solution? If you don't work from home or don't have any health concerns, the chances are that you might be able to survive longer on less than if you need to keep earning while power is out, or you need to absolutely have backup power for medical devices. But as I've said, everyone's needs are very different. So whatever you choose, I hope that you find a solution that has at least one or two emergency backup power options, because the way things are going, it's the smartest solution for both your home's future and perhaps your own sanity. Thanks for joining us today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord room, on our Patreon page down below, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon or Blue Sky. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They're part of the massive community of supporters who make this channel possible, helping us through Patreon and YouTube. That allows us to cover our bills, pay our team, and also ensures that we remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. We've got options available across a wide range of different price points, starting from $1.50 US a month. A massive welcome to our newest supporters, Eric Mora, Jordan Roy, Joseph De Viver, Scooted, Rennie Schweiger, Robert M, and Lev P. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame, and you can now even gift membership to someone else. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have a good old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at for the time being, address listed below. You'll also find links to our swag store, and if you're someone who has to shop on Amazon, please consider using our affiliate link so that we get the commission instead of Jeff Bezos. So we can continue to focus on making our content even better and reduce creator burnout. We're being a little freer with our release days, but plan on dropping new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on our main channel. Plus, on a Sunday, you'll find something over on Transport Evolved Take 2. If you want more, the algorithm that hates us thinks that you should watch this video, but we also think that this one is well worth checking out. Be awesome, be kind, be intentional, and don't forget to resist. Keep evolving.